established the first ever Gender Policy Council, which I have had the privilege of leading, with a simple but powerful directive to put women and girls at the heart of everything his administration does. And under his leadership, that is exactly what we've done. From historic reforms to address violence against women and girls, an issue that President Biden has championed since being the U.S. Senator, to fighting for women's economic security, to expanding access to child care for working families, to combating the maternal health crisis, and lowering drug costs for millions of women with Medicare. There's so much more that could be said about the Biden administration's historic achievements, but suffice it to say, there is no greater champion for gender equity and equality than this president. And that brings us to today, and the progress we've made already through the White House Initiative on Women's Health Research, which the President and First Lady launched just over a year ago. As those here gathered know all too well, women make up half of the population, but for far too long, women's health research has been underfunded and understudied. To close the research gaps and pioneer the next generation of discoveries, the President and the First Lady set out to fundamentally change how we approach and fund women's health research. Since the initiative began, the Biden administration has prioritized women's health research like no prior administration. And I want to take a minute to acknowledge my federal colleagues in this room who made this progress possible across the initiative's 15 constituent agencies, and in particular, Dr. Monica Bertinoli, the director of the National Institutes of Health. Who has been an incredible partner in this work and leader in this work. Over the past year, we've already committed nearly $1 billion for women's health research, which will support groundbreaking and interdisciplinary research on topics like heart health, bone health, menopause, and more. And in his State of the Union address, the President called on Congress to make a bold, transformative investment of $12 billion to support women's health research, including to create a new central fund for women's health research at the National Institutes of Health. The President also issued an executive order to direct federal agencies to make changes that will lead to better research and evidence, and in turn, better care for women. As just one example, agencies have strengthened their research and data standards to ensure that women's health is being considered at every point in the research process, from grant applications to data analysis to reporting. These new requirements will help ensure that federal research dollars work harder for women and advance our knowledge of women's health. In his executive order, the President also encouraged agencies to prioritize research on women's midlife health, because he knows we need to do more to address research gaps on diseases and conditions that are more likely to occur after menopause, such as rheumatoid arthritis, heart attack, and osteoporosis. To close these gaps, agencies are developing robust research agendas to improve prevention, diagnosis, and treatment, and strengthening data collection on women's midlife health. We're confident that these new investments and the policies we put in place across the Biden administration will contribute to future research breakthroughs, new treatment guidelines, and ultimately better healthcare and outcomes for women. I'll close by saying thank you to the Milken Institute for their partnership on this important conference, and thank you to all of you who are gathered here today. As I look around this room, I see so many trailblazers who've been fighting to advance women's health research for generations and for the next generation. It's your commitment and your work that have advanced the field and brought us to this moment of opportunity. Together, we will continue to improve the health and lives of women everywhere.
Please welcome Chair of the White House Initiative on Women's Health Research, Dr. Carolyn Mazuri.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you today, to thank you and all those who have made the work of the White House Initiative on Women's Health Research possible. to celebrate the far-reaching collaborative work of the initiative and to bring greater clarity to the enduring commitment to carry this work forward and to the opportunities that are before us now. I came to the White House as a clinician, a researcher, and the founder of the Interdisciplinary Women's Health Research Center at the Yale School of Medicine. And I've directed that center for 25 years. Over those years, thanks to the efforts of many, including people in this audience, colleagues across the nation, and those who came before us, women's health is now a recognized field of scientific study. It spans the breadth of health conditions that women experience, and there has been exponential growth in the meaningful research showing how health and disorders can differ for women and men, and the underlying basis for those differences, which can then translate into the development of targeted treatment and prevention strategies. Moreover, research has within its focus the development of data-driven interventions resulting in innovations in care. And importantly, there has been the successful development of new careers in women's health research, which will propel research and empirically based care into the future. And so based on my experience, the scientific foundation is built. The stage is set for the further discovery and implementation of findings that are needed to improve women's health. And right now, we are at a very special moment. It's a special moment in the history of women's health research in that never before has there been such awareness, enthusiasm, support, and momentum from government, academic research centers, nonprofits, philanthropy, and industry, as well as from advocacy organizations and long-term devoted leaders for women, such as Maria Shriver, who all want to remedy the gap in knowledge on the health conditions that affect women uniquely, differently, and or disproportionately than they do men. We are at this special point in time, because Dr. Biden and this administration have raised the national consciousness on the importance of women's health research and the value of investing in women's health. From listening sessions to lab tours at research institutions across the nation to speaking directly with women and innovators, Dr. Biden has heard firsthand about the health concerns women face and the research that can address these concerns when we invest in women's health. Since the President launched the initiative, the First Lady has led the way. The result has been a comprehensive federal effort to spur innovation in women's health, to ensure that federally funded health research works harder for women, and to encourage mission-driven partnerships across sectors to close research gaps in women's health. And now, we have the opportunity to build on the initiative's momentum and invest in ambitious new research, generate clinically relevant data, and develop and implement the needed groundbreaking treatments for women. If we grow the scope and depth of women's health research, women's lives will improve, families will benefit, and the nation will thrive. In closing, I thank all of you for the work that you do and for caring about the health and lives of women. Thank you.
Please welcome founder of the Women's Alzheimer's Movement, Maria Shriver.
how beautiful does this room look? How beautiful does everybody who's in this room look on this day? Good morning to all of you who are doctors, advocates, activists, researchers, and all-around badasses. That is you that I am talking to. Give yourself a round of applause. And this morning, may we all take a moment to celebrate the extraordinary accomplishments of the groundbreaking White House initiative on women's health research that was launched just 1 year ago. In 1 year, everybody in this room kicked butt. This is indeed a moment to celebrate, to give thanks, to acknowledge all that got accomplished, because everyone had a vision. They had a vision and a purpose that was larger than any one person. And what got done because everybody was brave, everybody was relentless, and everybody reached high. What got accomplished was and is historic, starting with the fact that not, as you heard earlier, not until this president and this first lady did we ever have a White House mandate regarding women's health research. Not until the Bidens did anyone ever think to make women's health and research a priority for the federal government. Let that sink in. So thank you, Mr. President, and I know he'll be joining us in just a bit. And thank you, Dr. Biden, for recognizing this issue is one of health equity and justice for American women. Thank you to Jennifer Klein, Dr. Missouri, Secretary Becerra, and everybody who worked to prioritize women's health research and pulled off everything that you just heard about this morning. There are 167.5 million American women in this country. Women of every age, ethnicity, race, religion, and a political affiliation whose lives will be forever changed by the work that got accomplished this past year and the work that is yet to come. Let us remember that the commitment to change the future for women's health started here, inside this house that has the promise and the potential to impact the world. You know, every time I walk into this house, I think of my mother, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, and she loved this place for a whole host of reasons. But she understood the power and the possibility that it holds. She knew better than most that those who live here matter. What they're interested in changes our nation. It changes the conversation that our nation has, and most importantly, it changes lives. She always told me, Maria, do not be afraid to go to whoever holds the power if you really want to get something big done. And that's why I went to Joe Biden. On a Saturday morning, I spoke to her about the lack of funding, the lack of research in women's health, and the opportunity for her and this administration to do something historic, something transformative, even life-changing, which was to level the playing field for women when it comes to health research. And she took it from there. And in record time, coordinated the biggest revolution in how women and girls in this country will have their future physical and mental health needs met. I've been around a long time, as many in this audience have also been, and I have never seen government work this quickly. You in this room are part of this historic undertaking, this seismic transformation in women's health. And every single person in this room knows what is at stake moving forward. Without our health, we cannot work, we cannot parent, we cannot be caregivers. And we also recognize that everybody in this room is one diagnosis away from a life-changing moment that could jeopardize the very communities and the families families who depend on each and every one of us. I really hope that this effort to prioritize women's health expands way beyond our government. I hope that every tech founder, philanthropist, innovator, scientist, researcher, every elected official in this room and beyond joins in this clarion call for justice and equity. As you heard this year, the President also called on Congress to pledge $12 billion towards the future of women's health research. That's what it will take, he said, to bring us to parity, to get the women in this country the answers that they and we need in order to make sound, informed healthcare decisions that will save lives. What else will it take? It will take all of us working together to build something new. Women all across this nation of all faiths, races, and political persuasions will need to tell our stories, and we will need to demand justice and fairness for women and girls. You know, when I was First Lady of California, I often invoked the Roman goddess Minerva, not just because she was on the California state seal, but because she was a goddess of wisdom and she was a warrior. Minerva knew when to put on her helmet and fight, and she knew when to take it off and talk about compassion and justice and wisdom. I believe every single woman in this country is a Minerva who can and will fight for something way larger than herself. Minerva vanquished everything she set her brilliant mind to. And I believe moving forward, this effort will take all of our brilliant minds and our open hearts as well. It will be hard, no doubt about that, but it will galvanize the best among us. It will spur us into action and prove yet again that reaching for the stars is within our grasp. There is no doubt in my mind that we will make good on this pledge to continue to transform women's health. No doubt in my mind that we will be able to show women across this nation that they are valued, that they are worthy, that their lives matter, and that their stories are real. We women do brave, hard things because we recognize that brave, hard things are what create a more just, a more tender, and more loving world. Emerson once wrote that what lies behind us and what lies in front of us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. So today, I hope we can all tap into what lies within us and light it on fire. Thank you very much.
Please welcome Executive Vice President of Milligan Institute Health, Esther Crowell.
To advance health research and discuss how to continue making progress on improving women's health. I would like to begin by recognizing and thanking leaders, so many of you who are in this room, and many who are in labs and clinics and communities who have worked tirelessly for decades with passion and creativity to move the needle on women's health. Because of the seeds sown by these champions, we are here today. The accomplishments of the White House Initiative in this past year alone has been extraordinary. Not only do we have energy and momentum on our side, but we are seeing results across research, industry, and advocacy. We have seen increased collaborations in elevation of women's health as a priority because of the leadership of the White House. More investment of funds are going into capital for women's health innovation. More teams are being built to scale innovations on everything from autoimmune disease to menopause to digital health solutions. Over the next hour and a half, you will hear from leaders at the cutting edge of research and innovation working to move us forward. We will start with 3 dynamic presentations from researchers at the front lines and 2 panels of leaders addressing the business case for investing in women's health and leaders using their voice to move women's health forward for the many, many years to come. Today is all about hope and excitement, and I hope that all of you can feel that today. Advances have been made to improve women's health, but there are many more areas to tackle. Data show that we face persistent underinvestment in research on women's health across many different disease conditions. Although 31 years ago, Congress passed the NIH Revitalization Act, requiring women and people of color to be included in NIH-funded clinical trials, underrepresentation of women in clinical trials, particularly in early stage, persists. In the US, only 4% of healthcare-related research and development efforts are targeted specifically at women's health issues. Addressing these gaps could lead to improvements in women's health outcomes, increased years spent in good health, reduced years of disease, and reductions in disruptions to work productivity. We have, as women, significant market potential. Investments addressing the women's health gap could potentially boost the global economy by $1 trillion annually by 2040 and add more women who stay longer in the workforce. We must change how we approach and fund research on women's health. At the Milken Institute, we've been working with many of the people in this room to design funding and partnership solutions to bridge gaps and spur innovation. We hope to engage many more of you as we put together a coalition of the willing, a network that can provide resources for improved research, allow for better data sharing, scale up investments in women's health. We are just at the beginning of the sea change. Progress is possible and can be achieved through partnership. Let's move with haste to create and solidify collaborations to improve women's health. And now, please join me in welcoming our first speakers to the stage, discussing the next wave of scientific innovation in women's health. I'd like to introduce Dr. Marlena Fazo of the University of Southern California. Dr. Martha Gulati of Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. And Dr. Lisa Mosconi of Weill Cornell Medical Center.
Endocrine therapies for reproductive cancers, and yet we have never been able to directly measure the effects of these therapies in the brain. Never. This needs to change. We and others have done several studies mapping the impact of menopause and hormone therapy on the brain. My team and I, in collaboration with Dr. Roberta Diaz-Britton, who is here today, have been looking at alterations in brain structure, function, energy metabolism, which you can see there in the slide, brain connectivity, and overall biochemistry. And we are indebted to the NIH, to Maria Shriver, to the Women's Alzheimer's Movement, and everyone who supported their work. But these are only the first steps. Today, menopause remains one of the most under-researched, underdiagnosed, undertreated, and underfunded fields in medicine. And so is the care of women's brain health overall. It is my hope that with more research, being a woman will no longer be a risk factor for Alzheimer's disease, and that my daughter and the next generations will have answers and effective solutions. And so I will close by noting that we owe women centuries of research. Thank you so much.
You all heard about this morning, but also a data-backed reason for companies to invest in this space. We're excited about the opportunities we can now shine a spotlight on for stakeholders across the ecosystem. Our analysis shows that just in the US, we are collectively leaving tens of billions of dollars on the table by not giving women the treatment that they need. I'll give you 3 examples, all conditions we've heard about today. First, in osteoporosis, we estimate a total addressable market of over $20 billion by 2030. That's nearly 4 times the market today if women with osteoporosis were diagnosed and treated appropriately. In Alzheimer's, which we just heard about, the total addressable market could be 10x by 2030. if women who are often misdiagnosed or diagnosed too late receive the diagnosis and treatment they needed. And in menopause, where there's incredible unmet need, we estimate a market of up to $35 billion if women with moderate and severe symptoms were able to seek the treatment they needed. All of that doesn't even fully account for all of the innovation that we heard about this morning. So, with those numbers as food for thought, I'm really excited to hear from our panelists to tell us more about where they see the opportunities. So first, let me introduce everyone. Dr. Jyoti Gupta
We've been forced to navigate unique healthcare challenges across every condition, including rare diseases. And it's often because there isn't enough research that specifically includes women of color. Tell us about what you think we can do to close that gap, and what makes you excited about being in this line of work and the future of this work.
I love our business. I have to be. So you're right. I mean, to look at the data, there's gross disparities. We see it in autoimmune diseases. Women overrepresented. So we have 7 times rates of lupus, for example. Black women have 3 times the rates of lupus as compared to white women. But we see this in breast cancer, 3x maternal rates. Obviously, maternal now. I mean, it's sort of across the board. And part of this is just our lived experiences, our circumstances. But the thing that we do know is there's no biological genetic explanation for this. Race is not biology or genetics. There is a lack of research. We simply don't understand it. And for rare diseases, as you mentioned, a Black family with a child who's got inexplicable symptoms will wait on average 7 to 9 years longer for a diagnosis as compared to a white man, just to get to find out what it is. We have someone in our group who was 52 when his cystic fibrosis diagnosis came in. That's almost unheard of. But when you show up at a physician, there's just not enough data. We talk about getting the standard of care, but if there's no research, your physician, your provider doesn't know what to do. There's no literature for her to refer to for your care. And if you look at research, we've talked about the dearth of research for women's health, but for Black women's health, at the highest level, you're talking less than 2% of all funding goes to explore anything for Black women and women of color. The percentage of researchers at the highest levels, the NIH funds, hasn't changed in 40 years. It's still under 2%. So we've got a long way to go. So at the Black Women's Health Imperative, we're very much focused on just sort of explaining and helping women understand, but solving the problem. So we formed a Rare Disease Diversity Coalition, which is a $20 million, 60-plus member coalition to examine what actually happens. Why can't people get a rare disease diagnosis? Why does it take so long? What are the research gaps? So next year we'll produce the very first paper that actually looks at clinical trial participation among rare disease patients to see who's actually in the trials. There's a saying, we talk about evidence-based medicine all the time. What becomes evidence depends on who's asking the questions and who they're asking. Some might say who's funding it. But until we change that, then we continue not to have the kinds of answers we need. And the other thing that I'm really excited about and optimistic about is we launched a breast and cervical cancer research project. So, we've talked about screening of breast cancer and the difference that Black women experience. Again, not biology. This research project will finally answer the question as to when Black women should start screening and how often they should start screening and what the issues are with their treatment and their health outcomes. I'm really excited about finally being able to say to physicians, this is what we know, this is what you want to do, and then giving women the tools. So until we have the kind of research that we need, we encourage women to ask questions when they go to the doctor. This is not that doctors are not trying to provide good care. Some things just don't occur to them. So by prompting them, do I have colon cancer? Do I have breast cancer? Should I do this? It'll at least get a doctor thinking, oh yeah, I should probably order this test or this screening, or maybe I should refer you to this provider, so that women have the best chance of getting the standard of care while we wait for the research and the data to finally answer the questions that we frankly should have answered a long time ago.
Yes. Thank you so much. Really put it in great context really so appreciate some tactical, real-world advice that I think we can all take into our communities. Elizabeth, I'm going to move over to you. You shared a heartbreaking and emotional story just a second ago about your patient on her deathbed. And you've also said before in your writing,
Distinguished guests, the President of the United States and Dr. Biden.
You're so quiet, it's like a class. So in the intermission, we're all like dancing and everything. Get a little movement, you've been sitting for a while, so thank you for standing, but like you get a little, like you said, Robin, a little movement, right? That's what it's all about. So, oh, please sit down. You feel all stretched out by now. So before I begin, I just want to say I'm so glad that you got to come here today because the White House is decorated. And the theme this year is peace and light. So I hope that you all feel that sense of, peace and light, and that just for a moment when you leave here today that you feel, I don't know, a sense of joy. Because I think we all need like this, we all need to feel joy now during this time of the season, during this time. So anyway, okay. You're all reading into that. Anyway, for decades, for centuries even, at dinner tables and in waiting rooms, in whispered conversations, when we meet our friends for coffee, women have been talking to each other about our health. Isn't that true? Yes. So today we brought that conversation to the White House. Today we are saying to women everywhere, we hear you and we will get you the answers you need. So thank you for joining us for the White House Conference on Women's Health Research. The United States has the best health research in the world. Yet women's health is understudied and research is underfunded, and so many of you have said this. And the United States economy uses $1.8 billion in working time every year to menopause symptoms that upend women's lives. And that's what Maria Shriver and I talked about on that Saturday afternoon in April last year. So Maria keeps this quote next to her phone. You have a stationary phone? In her office, and it says, why go to the moon? And your uncle, President Kennedy, asked, we choose to go to the moon in this decade and do other things, not because they are easy, because they are hard. So, Maria, thank you for carrying on that mission, pushing for breakthroughs that are never easy but possible. Thank you. So, a little more than a year ago, President Biden launched, thank you, Joe, the first ever White House initiative on women's health research, building on the foundation of decades of work in women's health from many of you in this room. And Carolyn made sure yesterday, as we were doing speech prep, that I understood. She said, Jill, I know that we're doing this now, but there are some women like Carolyn who's been doing this research forever and ever and ever. And I just want you to say, we recognize that. So.
our incredible team here at the White House, who's ensured that government-funded research, and they will include women from the beginning. And that means designing studies and separating the data, which everyone has said, and reporting findings to create treatments specifically for women and for men. I mean, we're not going to leave you guys out. And we've invested nearly $1 billion in this research on women's health. So over this past year, I've traveled around the country, and I have met, honestly, some really incredible researchers. And I've been to universities and the New York Stock Exchange to bring people together and create connections across industries. And the women of this country are paying attention. Researchers and business leaders are too. So we brought all of you into this room to elevate all this information, discoveries that will change how we treat menopause symptoms. We've talked about this all this morning. Research that uses genetics to find the cause of extreme morning sickness. And I heard this a couple weeks ago, and I was particularly interested because my own granddaughter was going through the same thing. Because we're going to be great-grandparents. Seeing the market for women's health products triple. Advocates are making sure that women know that solutions are at our fingertips if we just keep fighting for them. Together we've laid down a new line, a marker of our progress toward closing the gaps in women's health. Everything that you've heard today, and hasn't it been like so informative and fascinating? I mean, I love these forums because I always learn something new. I just, it's just so inspiring. Because this is our new normal. And today isn't the finish line. It's the starting point. We, all of us, we have built the momentum. Now it's up to us to make it unstoppable. It has been the honor of my life to serve as your First Lady and to join you in this work. But my work doesn't stop in January when Joe and I leave this house. I will keep building alliances like the ones that brought us here today. And I will keep pushing for funding for innovative research. Researcher who makes sure that each proposal you work on considers women from the beginning. Be the investor who searches for the next breakthrough product of treatment. Be the voice in every space, from boardrooms to classrooms to laboratories, who asks, what are we doing to advance women's health? Let's make a promise to all those women out there right now, sitting in a parking lot somewhere after a doctor's appointment, wondering why you're not being heard. So maybe feeling, like you're all alone. And I'll just have to stop here for 1 second. I did hear during that little intermission thing, like, we're not putting our doctors down, right? So some doc in the back said, it sounds like you're putting the docs down. We're not putting the docs down. I don't want you to feel that way, but I think the docs are joining us and saying, hey, we want the answers. So I just want to make that 100% clear. So the White House, all of us here, we will keep fighting for you until your worries turn into answers, your symptoms into solutions, until women everywhere benefit from the life-saving and world-changing research that we know is possible. A new future can ring out from this conference. one that answers the call from women who have been waiting for too long. Let this be the moment that we push harder. The moment that people say, change the world of women's health forever. Thank you. So I'm so grateful to have a president who heard us and took action quickly. So without Joe, really, this wouldn't have been made possible. And that's the power of someone who understands how to make things happen in government. Because God knows, Joe, you've been here for what, 50 years? So someone who has fundamentally shifted how our nation approaches women's health research. So please welcome my husband, your president and champion, I think, of all of us. So my husband, Joe Biden.
Thank God she said yes the fifth time I asked her. Please have a seat. You know, it's a point of personal privilege. When no man deserves one great love, let alone two, when I was introduced to Jill, my youngest brother, said you'll love her. She hates politics. Look, hello everyone. My name is Joe Biden. I'm Joe Biden's husband. Let's be honest, we wouldn't be here today without Joe. Across our administration, across Congress, across the country, the work we're doing on women's health research is some of the most important work this administration has ever done. And I've always believed that our nation is at its best when we plumb the endless possibilities that exist for all our women and girls. That includes their health. Half our population is safety audits. And like Jill said, for too long we've been underrepresented when it comes to health research. And that's real. You know, that's why over a year ago, we launched the first ever White House initiative on women's health research. And the goal was to fundamentally change and improve how we approach and invest in women's health research. We weren't giving enough of it. And to pioneer the next generation of scientific research and discoveries that are going to improve care for women we see all across the country. Because the fact is, the health of our moms and grandmothers, sisters and daughters, friends and colleagues affects not just women's well-being, but the prosperity of the entire nation. And that's a fact. We haven't gotten that through to the other team yet. I mean, across the board. Anyway, so that's why my State of the Union address this year, I call on Congress to invest $12 billion in women's health research. All across America. Folks, my administration is always going to wait for Congress to secure the funding. We look for other ways to prioritize women's health with existing dollars that are already in the government and to get important work started. And I knew where to start. Rosie DeLore. I'm not kidding. She's incredible. Every important thing I've ever tried to get done, don't pay attention to doing there. I mean, sincerely, she was desperate. And she did on child tax credit, I mean, across the board. And folks, women's health is something that matters so very much, along with members here today. She's going to keep this effort going when we leave. We're no longer going to be president and first lady, but we're not going away. agency, ARPA-H, which is patterned after Advanced Research Projects and Agencies for Health, is based on DARPA, which is the Defense Department program for Advanced Research and Projects Agency. That drove breakthroughs. The Defense Department broke breakthroughs in everything from the internet to GPS. It had a big budget for doing everything else, but it also had a specific individual budget. And ARPA-H does for biomedicine what DARPA does for technology. Driving breakthroughs to prevent, detect, and treat diseases including cancer, Alzheimer's, diabetes, and so much more. We're using their funding to drive breakthroughs in women's health and ovarian cancer, menopause, migraine, high blood pressure for pregnant women. The National Institute of Health is using their funding to break down the silos. A lot of silos in government, a lot of silos across America, to make more progress and do it more quickly. For example, we know that heart disease is the leading cause of death for women, but we don't know. We don't know enough about how menopause may affect heart disease. And it's going to change that. We're going to learn so much more. The Department of Defense is dedicating funding to research women's health issues like arthritis, cancer, chronic fatigue, which affect women in the military. But this research is going to benefit all women, all women. Our work doesn't stop here. Look, the addition to launch of women's health research initiative earlier this year, I signed an executive order that directing the most comprehensive set of executive actions ever taken in the history of this country to improve women's health issues. It ensures that women's health is integrated and prioritized all across the entire federal government, all research projects and budget, across the entire government. It spurs new research and innovation in a wide range of women's health needs throughout their lives. And it does so much more, so much more. Folks, there's literally never been more comprehensive effort from the federal government to spur innovation in women's health research in our entire history. And thank you, by the way, kiddo. I can digress for a moment. I've been a beneficiary of research we've done. I had two created aneurysms, two 9-hour operations. Took the top of my head off twice, couldn't find a brain the first time. all kidding aside, research is going on across the entire world. I visited every single solitary major health center in the world, 7. And a lot of what happens even in not just women's research, but docs are great. They walk by the mirror and they see Pulitzer Prize, Nobel Prize of Ocular Money rather than sharing the data. But that's all changing. That's all changing. This initiative lays the groundwork for discoveries and research for generations to come. Mark my words. And the benefits we gain tomorrow will happen because we made the decision to do something about them today, now. All of you in this room are leading the way, and that's not hyperbole. You really are. It's a hell of a combination of people that make things change. Let me close with this. And my daughter Ashley sitting here, she works for women, she runs the Women's Health Shelter, Women's Health Center Shelter in Philadelphia. And this holiday season is a time not for gratitude, but for reflection. Gratitude is important. We've got to reflect on what's going on. Let me say to you that it's been an honor in my life to serve as the president last year. I'm absolutely grateful. It's not a joke. We're blessed to live in America. We're blessed to live in America. I've been over 140 countries. But for the grace of God, we could have been born in a lot of other places. Literally the greatest country on earth. That's who we are. We've got to raise up even more than we are now. I often say America can be summed up in one word. I was on the Tibetan plateau with Xi Jinping. And he said, can you define America for me? This is all on record. I said, yes, one word. Possibilities. Think about it. The only nation in the world for what we think is arrogance now. But we've never failed to get things done with our mind. All possibilities. Anything's possible. That's what Women's Health Research Initiative is all about. Possibilities. And that's what this conference is all about. What's it you all? Researchers, innovators, investors, businesses, advocates, elected officials, public, private, and nonprofit leaders, unleashing the drive and discovery of the talent and imagination that you have in this room. The spirit of innovation inherent in who you guys are. I really need to think about it. Try to look at people you left and right you know, engage in this. It's all about possibilities and belief we can do things, we can change things fundamentally. I think the inherent in American conscience, setting a bold vision and taking concrete steps to make our dreams reality. Hold on, one more thing that we can never lose. Hope. Hope, hope, hope. Because what we need to raise the expectations of American people. We gotta let them know we haven't forgotten. Whether it's business or labor or whether it's politics, whatever, we haven't forgotten. You guys are out there, you take care of all these folks. Guess what? How many think that we just sort of forgotten? Why are we focused? Because of you and your fearless determination, we're making real progress. We're really making progress. There's so much more to do. We're going to take all of us to get it done. I know it's about it, but I know I have a hell of an army here. When I look around at all of you here today, I mean this sincerely, I know it's a battle we're going to win. We're going to win this battle. We just have to remember who the hell we are. We're the United States of America. There's nothing we've ever set our mind on we're not able to do when we've done it together. It's not beyond our capacity when we work together. That's what you're all doing, working together. And so I want to close by thanking my wife, Jill. I tell you, like I said, when we got married, my brother said, don't worry, she don't like politics. Well, I'll tell you what, you stepped up, kid. You stepped up. And in case you wonder, when she speaks,